A teacher? $80,000 a year? Worked for 35 years, saved consistently, bought a modest home early and maxed their super? Net worth at retirement? $2.1 million? A barrister? $250,000 a year. Same 35 years? Upgraded their home twice. Private school fees? 2 cars on finance? Annual overseas holiday? Net worth at retirement? $800,000. Same country. Completely different outcomes. And here are the two numbers that explain everything. To be in the top 10% of Australian income earners, you need $133,000 a year. To be in the top 10% by actual net worth, you need $2.94 million. Same percentage, completely different mountain. Today we cover both. Let's go. Before we get into the numbers, let me establish the distinction that drives everything in this video, because most Australians confuse these two things, and that confusion has a real financial consequences. Income is what flows into your account every year. Your salary, your wages, your business income. It tells you what you earn. Net worth is what you actually own minus what you owe. Your home equity, your super, your investment portfolio, minus your mortgage and any other debts. It tells you what you've built. These two things can look completely different for the same person. In Australia, for most people, they do. Here is the number I want you to hold on to. There are approximately 16 million Australians who lodge income tax returns. The median taxable income, the exact middle of the pack, is around $55,000 a year. The average is higher, around $68,000, but that average is pulled up by a small number of very high earners at the top, which means if you're earning $70,000 a year, you are already ahead of more than half the country, before any investments, before any property, just on income alone. So what does it take to be in the top 10% of Australian income earners? $133,000 a year. Based on the most recent ATO taxation statistics, approximately 1.6 million Australians earn $133,000 or more. That is 10% of the tax-paying population. After income tax and Medicare levy in 2026, $133,000 gives you approximately $94,000 in take-home pay. About $3,600 per fortnight. That is the top 10% income reality in Australia. Who earns this? Experienced professionals. Lawyers in their 5th or 6th year, engineers at senior level, GPS and medical specialists, senior public servants, experienced project managers, some tradespeople running their own business. On $133,000 a year, you're out earning 90% of Australian taxpayers. Every single year. That's a real and significant thing. But here is the paradox, and this is exactly what the barrister from our opening example illustrated. The $133,000 threshold doesn't feel high in Sydney or Melbourne. Not when you have a mortgage eating $3,000 a month, childcare costs, insurance, and a car repayment. On that income in inner city Sydney, you are comfortable, but you do not feel wealthy. And the reason is the peer group illusion. If you work in a law firm, a bank, a hospital, or a tech company, everyone around you earns between $100,000 and $250,000. That becomes your reference point. You stop comparing yourself to 16 million Australian taxpayers and start comparing yourself to the 10 people at your level in your workplace. Reality check. On $133,000, you are out earning 90% of your fellow Australians, even if it doesn't feel like it. But knowing you're in the top 10% of income earners doesn't translate into wealth. And this is where the story gets genuinely interesting. Income is a flow, wealth is a stock. You can have exceptional flow and a very shallow stock. Let me make that concrete. 2 Australians, both earning $133,000. The first has a good lifestyle, a decent apartment, a nice car, regular overseas holidays. After 10 years, they have roughly $300,000 in home equity and $180,000 in super. The second lives more modestly. Similar home, no car loan, fewer big holidays, puts $500 extra a fortnight into investments and super. After the same 10 years, $400,000 in home equity and $380,000 across super and investments. Same income. Over $300,000 difference in net worth in just 10 years. From one decision. The gap between what you earn and what you've actually built. That is where most Australian financial stories play out. And by the way, remember that $133,000 earner I mentioned at the start? I'm about to show you exactly why so many of them are nowhere near the top 10% of wealth. The reason is simpler than most people expect. Which brings us to the second mountain. To be in the top 10% of Australians by net worth, by actual accumulated wealth, you need approximately $2.94 million. Your home equity, investment property, super balance, share portfolio, any business interests, all of it, minus everything you owe. The median Australian household net worth in 2026 is approximately $750,000. And that number, as significant as it sounds, is almost entirely driven by two things: the family home and superannuation. Take away the house and the super, and the picture changes dramatically. Now, the age breakdown. This is where most people find their real position. A household under 35. Median net worth around $103,000. That's the starting point. Age 35 to 44, approximately $387,000. The 45 to 54 bracket, around $665,000. By 55 to 64, approximately $872,000. The top 10% threshold of $2.94 million. For most Australians, that is a late career or post-retirement milestone. So what does it actually look like? A paid off or nearly paid off home worth $1.2 to $1.5 million, plus $700,000 to $1 million in super, plus $500,000 in an investment portfolio, all of it built over decades, all of it working simultaneously. Superannuation is Australia's most underestimated wealth engine, and it's central to whether you ever reach $2.94 million. The super guarantee is now 12% as of July 2025. 12% of every dollar you earn going into your fund automatically. Think about what that means over a career. Someone starting work at 22 on $60,000, getting modest pay increases over time, and retiring at 67, purely from compulsory 12% contributions and investment returns, will likely accumulate $500,000 to $600,000 in super without ever making a single extra voluntary contribution. That's the automatic baseline. And most Australians never check it. The average super balance at 40 to 44 is approximately $143,000. At 60 to 64, it's around $395,000. The benchmark. As for estimates, a comfortable single retirement requires $595,000 at age 67. The average 60 to 64-year-old is already falling short of that target. So super is the foundation, but it's not enough on its own. Getting to $2.94 million requires three things working simultaneously. And that's exactly what the teacher from our opening story got right. And here's where I need to reframe everything. The highest income earners in Australia can have some of the most mediocre wealth outcomes. A barrister on $400,000 who spends $380,000 has 1/10 the wealth trajectory of a teacher on $85,000 who saves and invests consistently every month. The income is not the deciding variable. The habit is. We saw that at the very start of this video, and it's the most important thing in it. Income first. $133,000 is achievable through career progression in the right fields over a decade or more. It's a defined path, worth pursuing. But here's what I need you to hear clearly. You do not need to earn $133,000 to build top 10% wealth. 3 pillars. Pillar 1, property. Buy as early as you reasonably can, even a modest one. The equity builds over decades regardless of the starting price. Pillar 2, super. Even salary sacrificing an extra $100 a fortnight makes a material difference over 20 years, and it comes off your pre-tax income. Pillar 3, investments. Even $200 a month into a low-cost index ETF, set and forget, compounding for 30 years, it adds up to something real. Now the factor most people underestimate, time. Here's a real example. Someone on $75,000 a year who buys a modest property at 30, salary sacrifices an extra $100 a fortnight into super, and invests $200 a month in an index fund. That person, starting today, reaches approximately $2.4 to $2.9 million in net worth by their early 60s. Not because of their income, because of their system, because they started. The person who starts at 28 versus the person who starts at 38. On otherwise identical behaviour, the 28-year-old will have somewhere between $300,000 and $500,000 more in net worth at retirement. That is not a footnote. In most cases, it is the entire difference between reaching the top 10% and falling short. So here's where we land. Top 10% income in Australia, $133,000 a year. You're out earning 90% of Australian taxpayers. Lower than most people expect. More significant than it feels. Top 10% wealth, $2.94 million. A long game built on 3 pillars, property super, and investments, running simultaneously, over decades. The teacher and the barrister from the opening of this video, same country, same working life, completely different outcomes. The teacher understood something the barrister didn't. Income is what you earn. Wealth is what you keep. You can earn $250,000 a year and retire with less than someone who earned a third of that, if you never made the distinction. The real question isn't which percentile you're in today, it's which percentile your current habits are building toward. If this gave you a clearer picture of where you stand and what's actually possible, subscribe to Aussie Money Explained for a new video every week. Drop your age and which number you're closer to in the comments. Income top 10% or wealth top 10%? I want to see where everyone is starting from. See you in the next one.